What up, everybody? It's the Golf on CBS preview show. I'm Shane Bacon. That's Patrick McDonald. Patrick coming to you from the media center at Oakmont. You're there. You got the vest on?
Got the vest
You're official?
Official, cosplaying as a USGA official today. Already called out by someone pretty high up in comms for the USGA. I just told him, like, hey, I want to be like you guys. I'm trying to get every nook and cranny seen at Oakmont, but they're like, maybe settle down a little bit. Maybe settle down. But their vest has USGA, not Oakmont. So a little inside baseball there.
And I mean, also probably helpful for you because if fans have questions, they can come up to you and ask you. And
I
guarantee you, knowing you and knowing how nice you are to people, you'd probably help them out even if you didn't know the answer. So really kind of double dip in work for you for the week. Impressions. You've been out to the course. I mean, it's Monday around lunchtime. I know you got in, I think, last night. Have you been out and walked at all? I know you've sent some videos out in terms of just looking out at the driving range and the practice facility.
Yeah, the media center is like in an all-time spot, right of 18. We're having spectators literally on the front porch, like looking onto the range. It's going to be a great spot, looking up the 18th hole too. Definitely wet. There's a weather watch right now in effect officially. Shout out to my guy, Jim Cantori, Crooked Cantori. Rain last night. Also, it's been raining all spring. They had the hand mowers out on 18. Allegedly, I didn't see those with my own eyes, but that's been the mumblings around the media center. Some people very upset about that. But all in all, wet, rain coming, and I think rain over the weekend also. But walked a little bit of the back nine, and it's just an absolute beast. Everything you can handle. So guys putting their preparations in early. Some guys putting a lot in early, which is never really a good sign, Shane.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the swing tinkering on Wednesday of a golf tournament, and you're going, that's probably not a great sign if you're doing something like that. Typically, the people coming in form. I'm going to say Bryson aside, by the way. I think Bryson had new irons last week. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah,
new
he said afterwards there's still room to optimize. So
yeah, sweet. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, always on YouTube with his irons, whatever the case may be. I'd kind of forgot how well Bryson played here in 16. That kind of totally slipped my brain. I mean, finished top 20. I think he finished 16th or something. And it was, he just turned professional. So I kind of forgot how well he played in and around this golf course. We're going to get to that in a bit. I've got a few things I'm going to throw your way. Anything from Canada? I mean, kind of an interesting slot. The golf course wasn't that great. I think a lot of people have kind of dug into TPC Toronto or whatever. I mean, obviously it was a playoff. Ryan Fox won second win of his year. And I think this one gets him in the Masters. He wasn't in the Masters with the opposite field event win. So, I mean, a good win for him. He's been playing some great golf, but I would say a relatively boring playoff, an interesting playoff. I don't know why we do the same hole all the time. Don't tell me it's the fans. It's so silly. Like, have the fans move. Also, you're going to make the playoff uninteresting because of the 30,000 people there and not the, in theory, 2 million people watching on TV. Like, feed us new holes, man. That should be every playoff.
Yeah, it was bizarre, right? Cutting the new hole location too. I personally had never seen that one. I thought that was weird. They should have shaved that bank in front of the green too. Like, what are we doing there? I thought at that, like on the fourth or fifth playoff hole, I forgot how long it went. They should have just changed courses at that point, right? They should. It's not even the hole, like the whole goddamn course. But I will say the one positive here, even though he was very upset with the loss, Cam Young hit like some nice putts coming down the stretch, which has never really happened, and he roasted that 3-wood into 18. Was it a horrible chip? Yes, but I think hopefully he can take solace in making that ridiculous par on 17 also. So that we talked about him last week, Shane. Scotty Scheffler watching the longest day in golf, just being like, I do not want this guy in the field. He's in the field and he's rearing to go. I'll tell you that much.
Excited to be there. One thing, and I was doing Corn Ferry, had a great finish there, by the way, as well. The kid that won it makes like a 45-footer across the green. There'd only been one birdie at 18 all day long. And Austin Smotherman makes this like bomb from the front of the green after a bad tee shot. So kind of secured the win there. He's a good player, by the way. I think he'll win on the PGA Tour relatively soon. But the Sam Burns, we finish up Corn Ferry, and then me and James Nitties go to get dinner on the back end. And of course, the playoff was still going because it'd been going for an hour and a half. And Burns has that eagle putt, and Fox was in there tight. And I told Nitties, I said, just don't, I know you want to make eagle, but this is like 12 feet for Fox, and he missed some shorties. And I said, and this was before the first eagle putt was hit. I said, your caddy should like you should probably get your caddy to dial in the stats on tour. I think you and I have talked about this before, but almost remind Burns before he hits that eagle putt. Oh, and by the way, the PGA Tour average make from Fox's distance is like 30% or whatever the number may be, because I think a lot of the time you just expect it's going to be made. And of course it could be made, but the last thing you want to do is run it 15 feet by and then hand him the tournament. And obviously that's what happened.
Yeah, especially with how the hole before went when he left his 15-footer just a foot and a half short. And so, yeah, Burns probably is kicking himself because the first playoff hole missing from 5 feet, that wedge shot from 75 yards, missing the green entirely, almost really messing up there. And then obviously the 3-putt there. So definitely, it's weird. You shoot 62 on Sunday, probably don't think you have a chance teeing off early in the morning. And then 2 hours later, after you're done, you're in a playoff and you probably should have won. It's got to be like weird to kind of take that all in.
Yeah, I mean, it was I'd say a kind of a strange week across the board. Yeah. Obviously, Rory playing terrible. We'll get to Rory in a bit as well, talking about U.S. Open, but that was strange. Like the young players, kind of the pros, the new pros, nobody really played. I mean, great. They played okay, but they didn't play great. I don't think any of those guys that we were kind of paying attention to made the cut. And so, yeah, it was just kind of one of those forgettable tournaments. It happens occasionally. Hadn't happened a lot this year, by the way, on the PGA Tour. So if it happens here and there, that's just kind of part of professional golf. But I mean, we're obviously on to the U.S. Open. We're on to Oakmont, 10th U.S. Open at Oakmont. Everybody's talked about the golf course. I know the rough's tough. I know obviously you've had a look at it and seen what it looks like up close and personal. We'll get more of that reporting throughout the week, not just here, but obviously on HQ from you guys on the grounds. I have a couple of questions I've kind of written out that I want to float your way about this U.S. Open. Are you okay with that?
Let's do it.
Okay. So my first question, and I think this is going to be a popular conversation starter as we get closer to Thursday, is Rory going to make the cut this week at the U.S. Open? Because, of course, a couple of months ago, I was one of those people saying, he might win all the majors this year. And then, of course, he plays poorly at Valhalla, played very, very bad. I think it was Rick was saying one of the worst statistical rounds he's had as a pro, that second round in Canada. He missed the cut at Oakmont back in 2016. That was that run of 3 missed cuts from Rory, right? Misses it in 16, misses in 17, misses in 18. Now, Rory's form right now, not great. Driver's not great. And he even spoke on that, said, I've got to drive the ball well at Oakmont. That's like the key to the golf course. But I was looking this up, Rory in the U.S. Open, because you kind of think about Rory in the U.S. Open. You think about Congressional, super soft, Birdie Fest, not really a U.S. Open. It didn't feel like one. He's finished 6 straight U.S. Opens in the top 10. Tiger never did that, by the way. And that's Jack's best streak ever in a U.S. Open in terms of consecutive top 10s. So if he top 10s this week, it would be 7. So that'd be more than Jack ever had in his career. And he already has more than Tiger's ever had in his career. He's kind of turned into this U.S. Open golfer. So my question to you is, does he make the cut? And is it that Rory who's kind of struggling and he's kind of lost with the golf swing and the driver? Or is it the Rory of the U.S. Opens we've seen the last few years?
I think it's going to be a Rory McIlroy who struggles with the driver but makes the cut despite it. And you mentioned the run. He mentioned before the Masters how he treated every single major championship like a PGA Tour event during that stretch there where he missed 3 straight U.S. Open cuts, and how he started to take pride in playing difficult golf well, and how, I don't know if it was talked about at the time because I wasn't in the space, but how he felt people thought he was soft, honestly, and that he couldn't handle a test, and how his U.S. Open, like you mentioned, came at a soft Congressional that wasn't really a U.S. Open test. And so he took that kind of personally and reconfigured his game plan. Honestly, I think it's something Justin Thomas should take a page out of his book and kind of reconfigure his major championship prep too. And so I just feel like Rory wasn't really engaged last week at all. And it's pretty hard not to step onto a U.S. Open property disengaged. And so I think missing the cut might be a blessing in disguise, where he has a couple extra days of work. He can work on the golf swing, work on the driver, get in a comfortable spot. I just think he's too well-rounded now, maybe not necessarily in the past, where I expect him to miss a cut. So I don't know if he's necessarily going to contend, but I think even if he drives it poorly, he has a great chance to make the cut.
Ooh, announcement of the media center. Yeah, T9th in 2019, T8th in 2020, T7th in 21, T5 in 22, second 23, second last year, of course, losing there to Bryson at Pinehurst. I mean, very impressive, kind of sneaky impressive from him in terms of the way he's played the U.S. Opens after the run we talked about. I mean, I wrote something about this week that's going to come out, I think, on Wednesday. The one thing golf doesn't allow that a lot of sports allow people is you don't get to celebrate. I mean, unless you win the Ryder Cup or unless you win the Open Championship, it's kind of right back to business. When you think about the signature events and things like that for Rory McIlroy, it's like, you're supposed to play the next week. I mean, he didn't play the next week, but you're supposed to play the very next week after, accomplishing something that he's always wanted to accomplish and it's been kind of the golden goose of his career that he hadn't been able to kind of put his hands on. And like, this is like back to business when you want to just talk about how great the feeling must be of winning the Masters. And, I guess Valhalla kind of surprised a lot of us because of the success he's had at that golf course. But yeah, I mean, he's played pretty much like two decent rounds since the win at Augusta. I mean, he's played solid. He hadn't played great. I mean, Rory obviously has a high ceiling, but it's just like, he's all over the board for me. He could play well and it wouldn't surprise me. And he could shoot 75 and MC. And I don't think I'd be shocked by that either. But I do think Rory in the cut's going to be a big conversation this week. My next question for you, buddy. Can Phil actually have a decent Oakmont US Open? He turns 55 the Monday after the US Open. And I think he's talked about this. I think he's even said it. Likely his last shot at the career Grand Slam. Phil's been an incredible U.S. Open golfer. This is the one golf course he's never played well on. When you talk about kind of the classic U.S. Open courses, I mean, he's come close at Pinehurst, Shinnecock, Marion, Bethpage, Winged Foot. Oakmont, he's T47, miscut in his 3 starts here. I mean, is there any chance Phil could find some sauce this week? Because he's been playing decent golf on Live.
Yeah, no, I mean, he has 3 top 6s now. And we were kind of peacocking about different stats we had, Shane. Of the last 53 major winners, only one has been outside the top 50 in the OWGR. Phil Mickelson, 2021 PGA Championship. And so obviously comes in with some form, kind of like beat around the bush, saying this would be his last U.S. Open. Obviously that PGA, the exemption, runs off after this year. And so I could not imagine Phil Mickelson in his late 50s going through qualifying, but also I could totally see it too. So can he contend? He obviously has a little bit of pop still in the bat. I don't think so. Right. It's too tough. The courses you mentioned, like Marion, you could bunt it off the tee there. Pinehurst was a completely different era in the 90s. And so I'd love to see it, honestly, but I don't think it's going to happen.
The backward shot he hit, or the kind of backward shot he hit today, is like maybe in a career of incredible short game shots. It's like maybe top 3 or 4. If you haven't seen it, by the way, it's all across the Live social channels. I think I retweeted it. I mean, everybody retweeted it, for goodness sakes. But it was like, again, if you were going to rank top 5 best short game shots of his life, that's probably top 5.
It's like they used to do those videos with him where he would turn away from the hole on the bunker and hit it backwards. It was like 80% of that, it seemed like.
It was so cool. And like the announcers were, good shot. And then it like lands and you hear Farady's like, it just like rolls in. You're like, well, this is ridiculous. Here's my next question for you. Is Oakmont there you go. Look at there. There's the shot. There's the pin, the shot. And it even honestly started even more over his shoulder than it looks like from setup there. That's how crazy the shot was for Bill. Is Oakmont a first-time major winner site? You think about the classic golf course and how tough it is and how much we talk about the difficulty of it. But if you look at it, 5 of the last 6 U.S. Open champions won their first major, not first U.S. Open, first major championship at Oakmont. Jack in 62, Miller in 73, Ernie, Cabrera, DJ. The lone outlier, Larry Nelson in 81, had won. He won at Oakmont in 83. He'd won the PGA in 81. And even the women. I mean, Paula Creamer back in 2010, her lone major championship came at Oakmont. So I'm wondering, as I look at that trend and I look at the list, does any of these names stand out to you? I've got Ludwig, Victor, Neiman, Fleetwood, Cantlay, Hatton. Any of those names you fancy to kind of continue that trend?
Neiman's probably the guy. You can't discount winning half of the events on Live Golf so far this year. And he did the impossible, what many believed he could never do at Quail Hollow, and finish inside the top 10 there, back door, mind you. So I'd like for him to enter the front door this week. I think it's not only an Oakmont thing, Shane. I kind of think it's just a U.S. Open thing. Look at the most recent winners. You had Wyndham Clark, you have John Rahm, you have Fitzpatrick. Bryson obviously won in 2020 as well. And so I think with how difficult the U.S. Opens play, there is an added element of luck even more so, where someone's going to miss a fairway 5 feet off on the right side and someone's going to miss it 6 feet off on the right side. And the guy 6 feet off might have a chance to go for the green, and the other guy might just be completely boned. Like, there's so much more variance involved, especially with how thick this rough is going to be, where it might lend itself to a first-time winner. So the list of potential first-timers, I don't want to say they're uninspiring this year.
It is uninspiring.
Yeah.
It's not great. When I was going through the list, I was kind of going through, I went odds, then I went world ranking, and just not as many as you'd think. The whole best player without a major, and we've talked about it, but that best player without a major list in the 90s and in the early 2000s was kind of celebrated. And right now, to me, it's like Ludwig just hadn't had his chance yet. I mean, he's been close, but he just hadn't quite had that moment yet. And Victor's been close, and it's besides those guys, it's kind of it,
Yeah, and I mean, Vic, it's a regular Monday for him, but they were going deep in the weeds early. It was just a normal cup of coffee, normal rain session, I'm sure, for Hovland. But I think of those guys, I'd roll with Neiman, honestly. And then Ludwig, it's easy to forget, he was the 36-hole leader last year.
Yeah,
at Pinehurst number 2 before that short hole on the back, he made a mess of with his short game, made a triple, and that was kind of the end of it. So I guess those two. Although Corey Connors, he's not going to win the U.S.
Get out of here. Get out of here. You're now just talking yourself into names. All right. My next question for you is, could Bryson cement himself this week as one of the great U.S. Open champions of all time already at the age of 31? So if he wins this week, he wins 3 U.S. Opens, right? It'd be his third U.S. Open title. But it's kind of the places he's already won at. I mean, wins at Wingfoot, has won at Pinehurst, would pick off one now at Oakmont. There have been 4 guys that have 4 U.S. Open titles, Willie Anderson, Bobby Jones, Hogan, and Jack. So really one kind of modern player, if you will. And really nobody, since Jack. So, I mean, none of the, Tiger has 3, Irwin has 3. That's it there. Bryson would already join those 2 in terms of 3 U.S. Opens. And I mentioned how well he played here in 2016. I was thinking about this quote from Novak Djokovic, and I think it really applies to Bryson. Djokovic said the number one requirement to success at this level is, I think, the constant desire and open-mindedness to master and improve and evolve in every aspect. Stagnation is regression. And I feel like that is Bryson to a T. He even talked about it in that YouTube video he did. He said on the first hole, he was scared of OB. And he's like, I'm not fearful of that shot anymore. I was scared of that shot in 16. But like Bryson, and we're going to get to picks in a bit, but if he wins this one, I mean, you're really truly talking about a great top 5 potentially U.S. Open player of all time already.
Yeah, top 5, top 3 modern, and you join Jack, Tiger with 3, which is ridiculous. You mentioned the sites also. Is there a better trio than those potentially? With the history at those golf courses as well. Maybe you add in a Pebble Beach in a few years too, which I don't want to get over my skis here right now, but I think
it might be like the worst place for him, by the way. That might be the worst. That and Marion might be like the worst 2 places for him to win a U.S. Open.
But you mentioned him tinkering and changing and always trying to get better. It'd be like a recession indicator if Bryson DeChambeau is not coming in with a new set of irons or a new golf ball or anything. He's actually put in a new driver. I believe he called it a freshie. He needed to put a freshie in the bag because the other one was probably getting a little too hot. Maybe the face was caving in a little bit. And then I remember last year, Shane, before the final round, he changed his driver head also.
Yeah, 3rd round to 4th round. 10 minutes before the final round.
Complete psychopath.
And drove it terrible, by the way.
Horrible. So bad. So bad. But yeah, I think if he wins this week, you probably have to talk about him, like you mentioned, top 5, but it's the conversation of Jack, Tiger, and Bryson. And whenever you're with those 2, it's only the best of the best.
And I mean, you think about like the greatest USGA champions. And I mean, I think Tiger's probably going to forever hold that distinction because of the juniors, 3 AMs, 3 US Opens. And then, I mean, who knows if Tiger's ever going to chase the Senior Open. I think he might actually, just for historical purposes. And that's one more kind of carrot he can try to grab. But, I mean, Bryson won an amateur and it was like a dominant win. I mean, Havemeyer and then these US Opens. And it's supposed to be hard to win a US Open. And he's already got 2. And I think he's one of those players that's going to be considering what the modern U.S. Open asks of players. It's not irons off tees. It's booming as far as you can and find it. I mean, I watched that whole YouTube video, and he's going to hit driver on almost every hole. Unless the winds change. It's. I don't think it's firm enough to hit 3 wood. So
did he hit it on 2?
Yeah, he hit it on 2, just short right of it, and almost pitched it in. So, I mean, it's just like, it obviously power is king in golf. Power has become king in the U.S. Open. Used to be precision, now it's power. And so going forward, you look at the upcoming sites, like that fits into the Bryson DeChambeau game. So I just feel like if I was going to set the over-under on U.S. Open titles at 3.5, are you taking the under?
3.5. I'm probably on U.S. Opens alone. I'm probably going to go under. I think this is his biggest lift. I think it's going to be more difficult than Winged Foot for him. I think it's going to be more difficult than Pinehurst because I think there's like a hair of creativity needed around here. There's some linksiness to this golf course. He obviously has not been a great links golfer. That's a puzzle he has not yet solved. And there's it just seems like every single lie is not flat in the fairway. And he's obviously gotten better at Augusta National these past few years. But if he does this, I think it will be his most complete win, as opposed to Winged Foot, where he was just hitting it everywhere, really bombing, gouging. And then last year where, he made so many putts down the stretch that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I almost will just counter with that point on Bryson this week and say, I agree with you. If Oakmont was playing firm and fast, I totally agree with you. But the fact that it's going to be wet and a bit soft, strength, I think, is going to be a big, big plus out of the rough when you miss these fairways. And again, you're going to have to bomb driver on all these holes, and nobody hits the driver better than Bryson. So if he's hitting the driver straight, I think he's going to be very much in contention. And if he's spraying the driver, I think it could be a really tough week, to your point. But I actually kind of like him in these conditions just simply because of what the golf course is going to ask. I was talking to Nitties about this last night about Oakmont. He's doing the world feed this week, and he's excited to go out there and kind of like check out he's been out there before, but just to go check it out and all that. And I said, Oakmont is kind of this Frankensteinian kind of golf course. When you really think about it, people say, oh, it's so tough. It's this, it's that. And you go, it's kind of like driving around Muirfield Village, where you've got to hit a lot of fairways, but it's got thicker rough than Muirfield. It's like Winged Foot rough on these tight corridors where you got to hit fairways. It's got Augusta-like slope greens. The bunkering's like Carnoustie. It's deep and penal. It almost feels like you're playing an Open Championship when you hit it in those bunkers with the distance of Erin Hills. It's kind of combining all this difficulty of all these other golf courses into this place that, you could talk about green speeds and you can talk about the rough, but it's like, that's not the only reason it's difficult, right? Every combination of tough is why Oakmont is so tough. And I just go back to, if it's wet and soft, the guy that can bomb it as far as possible and has the ability with his strength to kind of gouge the ball out of some of these lies, I just like his chances. So, we'll get to, like I said, we'll get to picks in a bit. That leads to my next question. Is somebody going to finish under par this week?
Yes.
Okay.
I put it at, my brain's doing the calculations, 78% chance someone finishes in red figures. So here's some good stats for you, Shane. Hopefully I'm not stepping on your toes here, but there's only been 4 guys under par in the last 2 U.S. Opens at Oakmont. Obviously, all 4 came in the most recent one with DJ, Piercy, Furyk, and Lowry. Here's another one that kind of goes against it. This was probably my favorite stat for how difficult Oakmont has been, but I believe the rain, like you mentioned, is going to soften this place up, and someone's going to be able to post red figures. Every U.S. Open round since 1927, Shane, the scoring average at Oakmont has been +2 or higher. Isn't that insane?
That's Oakmont. Like, you defined it. It's like you just can't beat it.
Yeah. So I think one guy finishes under par, and it's the winner.
Okay. I think somebody will finish under par. I think the softness helps. I think you nailed it with, at 16 We were talking about how tough the golf course was. We got rain, and then all of a sudden people are going out there and shooting 65. So I don't think it'll be a lot, but I do think the winner, a little bit like we saw in 16. It's like 16 under par. 07 was over par, but then you go, 83 under par, 94 under par, right? I mean, 73 under par. I think we always think it's going to be over par, and that's not always the case. And yeah, I mean, producer Josh is pointing this out about Shane Lowry, first 3 rounds in 16. I mean, 68, 70, 65. He played terrible on Sunday, but for 3 rounds, I mean, he was rocking and rolling on this golf course. Another person we're going to get to in a little bit as well. I like Shane Lowry a lot this week.
Famous last words.
Give me some Shane Lowry if you can. Our picks were pretty good in Canada, by the way. I think we both had. I think you and I combined to have Burns and Fox on our can win list. And I think we had Cam Young. I think you had Cam Young on there as well. So
absolutely,
we don't like to pat ourselves on the back that often because we typically get it wrong. But when we do, there it is, and nobody checks it either way. But excited about Oakmont. Excited to see this place. I think this is one of those. It's almost the opposite of what we see when we talked about some of these courses we see all the time. You think about Quail Hollow. It's a golf course that obviously we see a lot, and the excitement to see it in a major venue isn't that high yet. When you get to an Oakmont, we hadn't seen it since 16. It's exciting for us because it's cool and it's new, and a whole new crop of players get a chance to kind of attack it.
Yeah, and it's going to be different than I feel like the U.S. Open and the USGA has kind of got a little artsy, a little crunchy these past few years with some of the venue locations. And you look at the last 6 U.S. Open, Shane, the winning score has been -6 or lower. That's the longest streak in championship history.
Wow.
And so 7 out of the last 14 before that, they were even par or higher. And so I think that's also another reason why there's so much excitement, because it feels like in the U.S. Open, we haven't been able to see these guys get punched in the face. We haven't seen these guys look really, really dumb. And that's honestly half the fun.
I mean, it is half the fun. And I think you need a little mix of both, right? I don't want to see everybody out there shooting 75. If you play well, I think Oakmont allows good rounds to happen.
Yeah.
And if you play poorly, obviously it can balloon. And, I think Oakmont's one of those places too where, you're not going to make a lot of triples. You're not going to make doubles and things like, I mean, you will, and there will be those this week. But it's one of those places at the moment you get out of position, you make a bogey, and then you look at the third round from 2016 from Bryson. He shoots even par. I think he made 5 pars. I mean, it's like you're going to make a whole bunch of bogeys. You're out of position. You can also make a lot of birdies if you hit a good drive. And there are a lot of birdie holes. You think about 2 and you think about 17. I think the par 5s are attackable for these players. And when the wind shifts around that place, either one's going to be downwind or 9's going to be downwind, And I mean, the golf course kind of meanders that way where it allows you to kind of take advantage of however the golf course is playing. So scoring is there, again, if you play well. I want to get into our power rankings if you've got yours handy.
I got them.
And I got to say something. First things first, I think I said Valhalla early instead of Quail Hollow, which tells you how much those 2 golf courses stand out in terms of PGA championships. But I think this is the first time a certain somebody is not going to be on my list for the year on a power ranking for major championships.
Wow.
So I'll kick us off. My number 5, and I just mentioned the name. We just talked about his 3 rounds in 2016. Shane Lowry is my number 5 on the power ranking. Really, outside of the PGA, he's played awesome golf. He had a really good chance here in 16. This has not been his best major. He's not played great at U.S. Opens, top 20 in his last 2. But I just feel like Shane Lowry's playing solid golf, and if it's kind of muddy and gross, I think Shane Lowry can kind of handle that because that's the weather that was here in 16 as well. So Shane Lowry is my number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is also off the beaten path a little bit. Also not his best major championship, only a couple top 10s, I believe, and he's been around the block for a little bit. It's Keegan Bradley. This guy grew up right up the street there in Woodstock, Vermont, only a stone throw away from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Oakmont Country Club. But
you just take an Uber most of the time. It's close.
Absolutely, yeah. T8 at the PGA Championship where he didn't really putt. Another top 10 there at Jack's place as well. He's driving the absolute crap out of the golf ball right now, and his chipping has really improved this year. It's been pretty fun to watch. So I went with Captain Keegan at number 5, and kind of selfishly because I just want him on the Ryder Cup team at this point.
You know what's funny is I was looking at names this morning, odds and stuff, and he's not my sleeper, but he was almost my sleeper to win. Is Keegan. It's just something adds up here. I don't think he gets frustrated on the golf course as much as he used to when he was younger. I think he's kind of able to handle the situation. I also think he's one of those guys that this is probably the most important major to him because he loves like America and the USA and obviously the Ryder Cup and all those things. I think he's sponsored by a brand that is like Flag and Anthem or something. I mean, obviously patriotic and loves his country. I feel like he's probably one of those people that like ranks the US Open as his favorite major,
He's looking forward to Oakmont. People are like talking about it like, oh my gosh, this and that. He's like, I cannot wait to play Oakmont. And so I'm with Captain Keegan. You talked about the odds. It felt like honestly some of those guys around like 90 to 100 were better than those guys in the 50 to 80 range.
Totally agree with you. I honestly don't really like anybody on the odds sheet except for Scotty. And I mean, I'm not going to touch Scotty at plus 260 or whatever, minus 260, whatever it is. I got Rahm at 4. I mean, what more do you got to say about John Rahm? U.S. Open, tough golf courses, plays well. I'd be shocked if he played poorly this week. And by the way, I don't know if you heard this or not. He finished top 10 on Live Again.
I think that's 20 in a row. But I mean, like half of those top 10s, he's like 5+ strokes back. My number 4. Also, I mean, surprisingly, my top 5 power rankings, the majority are not PGA Tour players. My number 4 is Joaquin, the Dream, Neiman, coming off his 4th win at RTJ, tracking down Bubba, Keimer, Bond,
Graham
McDowell, Smash, legend. Neiman, I like his creativity. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. He can work the ball any which way. I think the softness helps him a little bit. I am concerned on and around the greens for someone like him, but I like what I saw at the PGA Championship, and he's obviously playing some really good golf. So Neiman at 4 for me.
That PGA Championship, by the way, Quail Hollow. I don't know if you knew that or not.
That was not Valhalla.
It was not Valhalla this year. Easy to mix them up. I get Kiowa and Whistling Straits mixed up a lot as well when I talk about majors. I don't know why. It's not like they're very similar golf courses, but I think maybe just the terms or how often they're played back to back. I got Morikawa 3.
Oh,
by the way, I like your Neiman pick. I don't have him on my list, but I'm with you. I think softness helps. I think if it's really firm, it probably doesn't help him. I like Morikawa just because I think he's going to hit a boatload of fairways, and I think when you hit a boatload of fairways at Oakmont, it's going to play into players' hands. So, and when you look back at these, the last 2 winners bombed it, right? The last 2 winners, and Ernie as well. I mean, Ernie bombed it, especially back in his heyday. But there's always the not super long, accurate guy that kind of floats around at Oakmont U.S. Opens. And I think Morikawa is kind of mine in terms of who I put on this list.
I like that. I will say the one thing about Morikawa that threw me off is when he talked at, was it Muirfield Village, I think? And he said he's searching for something, but he doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
he's like all golfers know what I'm talking about. He's like, something's just missing right now.
Yeah.
So, but I'm with you. Like this guy, I think he should have won in 2021 at Torrey Pines. He missed so many short putts down the stretch. And I would be shocked if throughout his career he does not win a U.S. Open.
Yeah, I mean, do I think he's going to win? Probably not. Do I think he's going to be in contention? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think the winner is likely going to come out of these 2 dudes. Did you do your 3?
My 3 is Bryson DeChambeau.
Wow, at 3. Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Dropped him to 3. I think he was at 3. And, new driver. We'll see how that goes. Probably great. He has a zillion driver heads, so should be comfortable with it. But like I mentioned, I just think there's maybe a touch factor needed where I trust the 2 guys above him a bit more, if that makes sense.
Okay. I got Bryson as my number 2.
Yeah.
As I've said and stated consistently about this golf course, he just feels like the floor for him is 5th, So, I mean, I just feel like if you're giving him 5th to 1st and there's an opportunity for him to finish somewhere in there, depending on the conditions, the draw, all that good stuff, he might win, he might not, but I just don't see him finishing outside the top 5 or top 10. And so you got to have him somewhere kind of near that top.
Yeah. I went with Rahm at 2, which probably some recency bias there off the PGA Championship, but this guy engaged and fully back him, saying that was the most fun he had on the golf course in quite a while. And he seemed like he was a sad boy for the past year and a half, especially. Think about it, Shane. He didn't even play in this championship last year with the lesion in between his toes being the WD. So I think he's chomping at the bit for a number of reasons, especially with all this talk about Scotty. That should have been a rivalry with their Ryder Cup history and everything. And I think he gives it a good go. So I have him at 2.
And then we both got Scotty 1.
Correct. Corey Connors, number 1.
Yeah. No, sorry, Corey. Sorry, Corey. Sorry, everybody. So there you go. No Rory on either of our top 5 list.
It's the move.
And you shouldn't have him on your top 5 list. Like, could he win? Of course he could win. He could win anywhere. But does it feel like he's going to win? I also, and I mean, this is like, we see great players kind of pop out of nowhere. It happens occasionally. I don't feel like Rory's one of those players. I think Rory wins when he's playing well, and I think he doesn't play well when he's not. Like, I just don't feel like he's one of those guys that out of nowhere, like, finds it for a week. You know, I just feel like he's a progressive player, and the progression right now is going down, not up, you know?
That's a good point. Yeah, he's got to find something, prove it in competition, and then you can start running downhill. He has always been the ultimate momentum player.
All right, favorite time of the show, 5 minutes with our guy Justin Ray, head of content, 21st Group. J. Ray, what do you got? What do you got going this week? Who are you helping out? Who are you mentoring?
I'm writing for The Athletic per usual. The preview article will be up Wednesday, and then after each round, you can check it out. The Athletic, and also obviously on Twitter and Instagram, all the social media channels. Working with the Sky broadcast all week as I do for all the biggest championships as well. It's gonna be a great week, and I'm talking to you guys.
We love doing it. We love when you bring us info, especially around these major championships, especially around, you know, kind of the, like we were chatting earlier. This is my favorite of the venues. I mean, I love Oakmont the most of all of them. And we were also joking a bit about how little we've talked about Xander and how little the buzz is around Xander, considering how well he's played in these U.S. Opens. I mean, the U.S. Open play from this guy is incredible.
Yeah, historically speaking, it's almost unprecedented. You get to some pretty lofty names pretty quick. So Xander's finished in the top 15 8 consecutive years at the U.S. Open. Since World War II, there are only 2 players with longer such streaks. Jack did it 12 straight years, because of course he did, 1971 to 1982. Sam Snead, 9 in a row, 47 to 55. One of the more incredible things in the history of golf, Sam Snead never winning a U.S. Open as successfully as he was here. I think maybe the hype is still down a little bit for Xander. Obviously, he hasn't won this year. He missed the time with the injury, the intercostal strain. His putting numbers are really bad compared to what he normally does season over season on the PGA Tour. He's built up a really good resume in terms of great metrics on the greens. He just hasn't had it yet this year. But when it comes to Xander Schauffele at the U.S. Open, my other Xander stat, 659 players all time at the U.S. Open have played 20 or more rounds. The man with the best scoring average, Xander Schauffele. And pretty incredible that he has that and he hasn't got a victory. 2.84 strokes gained total per round. Going back to World War II, only one player has a better career average strokes gained total at the U.S. Open without a win, and that's Bobby Locke.
Jeez.
Good old Bobby Locke.
Crazy. That just kept going, by the way, Patrick. It was like, you want more Xander? I'll give you more Xander.
Which, I mean, we are the show for that. I think what makes it so incredible too is he has started his career with the streak, his U.S. Open career with the streak. He didn't, have to dip his toes in. There's another streak you want to talk about from another one of the top guys. What's that for us?
Yeah, another one of the game's best players, and obviously the man who completed the career Grand Slam earlier this year at Augusta National. Rory McIlroy's finished in the top 10 at the U.S. Open 6 consecutive years. I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. The record for all time is 7 straight. So he's on the verge of, if he finishes in the top 10, he'll tie the record for longest streak ever. The guys who've done it 7 straight years, Ben Hogan, Bobby Jones, and the little-known Stuart Gardner did it back in the very beginning, 1900 to 1906. Gardner, the only player, obviously, in that group with 7 straight top 10s and not a win in that span. There are one other Rory quasi-omen. I know he's coming off a terrible week in Canada, but 4 players have won the U.S. Open the year after finishing runner-up, as Rory did last year at the U.S. Open to Bryson, obviously. The last 2 had ties to Oakmont. Tiger in 2008, the year after finishing runner-up to Donald Cabrera, and Dustin Johnson was the last guy to win it in 2016 at Oakmont. So there's some ties there to finishing runner-up the year before and then getting a U.S. Open victory.
J. Ray, we were talking a little bit about the Rory run, and I'd mentioned that earlier. We were talking about Rory before we had you on, and I'd mentioned the consecutive run and how like Tiger never did that, and that was the best number. Jack was at 6. The funny thing about Jack was Jack went top 10 in 5 straight from 71 to 75, finishes T11 in 76, which obviously ends the top 10 streak, and then goes 6 straight after that. So he was one shot away from it basically being 12, 13 straight years.
Eviscerating the record far away.
Of just an incredible thing. What happened, man? Come on, Jack. What was wrong with you? That's that era of Wikipedia that's just pretty much a block of yellow and green from Jack in the 70s, which was quite remarkable, obviously. He was very
70s, he had more wins in majors than finishes outside the top 10.
Oh, my God.
This is stupid.
Yeah, I think
it's dumb.
He missed one cut in the 70s in a major, which is bananas. We talked so much about Oakmont and what makes it so difficult. We were talking earlier about the golf course. And I even was texting with you earlier this week about just kind of like the combination of toughness. What about in and around the greens? Because we've already seen the videos. We've already seen the drop of the ball. Bryson couldn't find a couple balls when he played on his YouTube video. What about scrambling around these greens?
Yeah, I think when we see those videos, the Kevin Na-esque ball going into the rough is super high, and all the chatter we have leading into a U.S. Open, we think about it from an approach play standpoint, when really I think we should talk about it around the greens. And Oakmont is one of the most difficult courses, championship or otherwise, to get up and down. In 2016, players scrambled successfully just 42.7% of the time. This is one of the hardest weeks in scrambling at any tournament over the last decade. I think third hardest, and the other 2 were other U.S. Opens. But over the last 2 U.S. Opens at Oakmont, I found this number really telling. When you combine 07 and 2016, 10 different holes on the course have yielded a scrambling rate under 40%. That is crazy. These are the best players in the world, and less than 40% of the time on 10 different holes, they're getting up and down.
So who do you think that favors? The elite around the green guys or the guys who might be lacking in that area because everyone's struggling?
I think when it comes to the U.S. Open, especially when you look at like the iconic venues like Shinnecock, Oakmont, even Pebble Beach was a little bit of a different golf course, but still has that kind of iconic feel to it. It's avoiding mistakes. And the best way to do that isn't necessarily through having an immaculate short game. It's through not putting yourself in a position to make those
iron
mistakes.
Play. Yeah,
iron play and putting yourself in the right part of greens, knowing where to miss, and really playing conservatively. One of the numbers that was most staggering to me about Dustin Johnson and his win at Oakmont in 2016, 5 fewer bogeys than any other player in the field, which is pretty incredible. I mean, he had 6, I think, for the entire week. Bogeys are worse. Jim Furyk second with 11. So that speaks to you just got to keep yourself out of bad positions, and just danger obviously lurks basically before and after every shot around there. So avoiding the potential for that is probably the best recipe for success.
Okay. Yeah, it's like you think about elite iron play too. I mean, when you think about DJ in 16, obviously, kind of high to power iron play, and he was one of the best in the game. You think about 07, I mean, who almost wins there? Maybe arguably the best iron player of all time. So I think when
Ernie led the field in greens in 94.
I mean, excellent iron player there as well. So yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. It's like, just don't hit it there. And if you cannot hit it there, you'll be okay. Just don't take
it out of the equation.
That's all you got. Green. What are you doing, guys?
Just don't do it. We mentioned some of the winners here: DJ, Angel, Ernie, all big boppers. What's the driving distance discourse around Oakmont for you?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of juxtapose that trend and also the overall more increased significance in driving distance for U.S. Open winners. You mentioned the last 3 winners here at the U.S. Open. Ernie was 5th in driving distance for the week. I think Angel Cabrera was 1st, DJ either 1st or 2nd, so extremely high in driving distance. But if you look at all U.S. Opens over the last 40 years, and we've really gone, if you think about the winners, it kind of ties into that. Bryson, Gary Woodland, but it's skewed more powerful recently, and it's kind of staggering the difference here. So from 85 through 2015, 31 U.S. Opens, the average driving distance rank for the winner that week was 28.2. So not bad, not elite, not great. Since 2016, the last 9 years, that number is 6.1. Incredible difference in terms of what we've seen in the significance of power. 39% of U.S. Open champions from 85 to 2015 ranked in the top 15 that week. 39%. Last 9, everyone's been in the top 15. 7 of the 9 were 7th or better. So it just speaks to the increased significance of power. And based on who we've seen win the last 3 U.S. Opens at Oakmont, I think it's going to be a guy who hits the ball a long way who's going to end up winning the trophy.
Or Connor, Shane.
It just feels tough. It just feels, again, and we were talking about this with Bryson. I mean, obviously Scotty hits it plenty far, but it just the name of the game has changed, and it's changed even with the U.S. Open. Like, it felt like the U.S. Open was that last one to change as power was starting to dominate. But I mean, now it's, especially on a golf course that's going to be a little bit more wet and the rough's going to be a little thicker and more saturated. Its power is going to be king once again this week. So, J-Ray, always great stuff. Looking forward to reading you. Looking forward to hear from you. Keep at it. And if you don't follow J-Ray on Twitter, honestly, delete your Twitter account because that's a really silly thing to do. Have a great week, my man.
Thanks, guys.
I mean, since we're here, you want to do our winners? You want to do our picks? I mean, might as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I've been saying it forever. I'm going to keep going. I got Bryson winning this thing.
Okay.
I wrote Scotty down this morning, and I can't do it, man. I've been riding Bryson hard on this thing. I'm going to stick with Bryson as the champion. 3 U.S. Opens, historical stuff at a young age. I just like it just feels like Bryson or Scotty, and I'm going to go Bryson.
Yeah, I'm going to take the shorter price. I'm going to go with Scotty minus 2.5. He's going to win by 3, I believe. He'll be minus 2. And this is the most well-rounded he has ever been. You look at the statistics the last 3 months, he's top 20 in every single one, I believe. And that is just what this place requires. He has so many different outs to get around. And you mentioned how there's just going to be a boatload of bogeys. Number 1 in bounce back, number 1 in bogey avoidance too. Like statistically, it all points to Scotty Scheffler for me. And I like how his prep has been as opposed to last year where he kind of came in with similar expectations, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, on my can win list, I mean, obviously I've got Bryson, I've got Scotty, I got Shane Lowry. And I mean, again, it's you feel like you got to pick big dogs on can win for these weeks. And I mean, if you don't have Scotty on that list, it's silly. But for me, it's picking 2 dudes that I think are playing the best golf in terms of major championship golf right now and have been. And then I think it's just picking a guy that I feel like has been in form and I think understands and likes this golf course when a lot of the players, to your Keegan point, I think a lot of players get here and they're like, this is going to be a long week. And I think Shane Lowry is one of those players that kind of gets excited for this level of golf.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Lowry, the putter, I think, can be almost hidden in a way around Oakmont. And I think there's the questions about his late tournament putting is starting to piss him off. And Shane Lowry plays good golf, like pretty good golf when he's pissed off, honestly. So I do like Lowry, obviously. Did you give your can wins? Sorry, this fan is just buzzing in my ear right now.
You're all good. I got Bryson, Scotty, Lowry. Those are kind of my 3.
I'm going to go with, I mean, for me, it's Scheffler, Bryson, Rahm, but that's kind of boring. So I'm going to go with Keegan Bradley.
Give me Keegan.
Yeah, give me Keegan. Give me Corey Connors. He's listening to this, and he's saying Shane Bacon doesn't think I can win. Not so fast. I think Connors is this year's Lowry, where he's going to be leading this tournament until a certain point over the weekend, kind of like the PGA at Oak Hill. And then I'm going to go Sepp Straka.
Okay.
Sepp Straka as well.
Who's not going to win? Who cannot win?
Who cannot win? I'll leave you some of the fun names. I'll just play the hits. Cantlay, Fleetwood, Thomas. Can't win.
I got Rory, JT, Neiman. Not winning.
Okay. What do you think about Xander this week?
I mean, all he's done this whole year is fly under the radar.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a perfect golf course for him. We haven't mentioned his name one time. We've been talking for 40 minutes. I mean, sure, he can play well here. Like, why couldn't he?
Yeah, I know. And the U.S. Open history is absolutely ridiculous. His floor is you talk about Bryson's floor. Xander's floor is so high for just, different reasons. He's so well-rounded. So I do wonder if he can get the driver straightened out. He was working Monday morning, we talked about, working with CNN analyst Chris Cuomo a ton on the driver already on the driving range, working on some stuff. So if he gets that straightened out between now and Thursday, why not?
By the way, my sleeper for the week is Cam Young.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I
come on.
Doesn't it kind of feel like why would this golf course not fit his game?
No idea. He could win by 3.5. I will say,
actually, he can't win by 3.5. You can't win by 3.5. You have to win by an even number, 3 or 4.
The first people I ran into here were actually the Peter Millar reps who I met out in Phoenix last year. And they're like, you doing anything on Cam Young this week? I go, maybe if he plays well. So I think that's a good sign. That's a good sign to have high expectations. My sleeper is Harris English.
Okay.
Playing good golf in majors. One of, I don't know, 4 players who can say he finished top 15 at both the Masters and the PGA Championship, and sneaky good U.S. Open record.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like those two players kind of are similar in terms of the kind of golf courses and maybe the demeanor needed around a golf course like this. By the way, you mentioned Xander in the U.S. Open. I just want to flash how he's played in U.S. Opens in his career. Is that very good or no? Is that good? Pretty good.
What happened in 2025?
He played terrible in 22 and he finished T14. What are you doing? I mean, that's insane. He's never had a bad U.S. Open.
Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And I think what's crazy also is I don't really remember him ever being in the mix of one, too.
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess 19.
I think if you look at that, I bet he's like 7 strokes back.
I mean, that is so crazy. Final group.
Oh my God, LACC.
Remember?
Yeah.
Final group at LACC with was that with Ricky?
Ricky. Oh, that was peak. That was like when Xander just gagged away every single tournament. Yeah, Saturday he hit one in that fairway bunker, I think.
Gosh.
And then because they both tied the record on Thursday.
Yeah. I mean, he shot. He shot 62. Is that twice in is it majors or U.S. Opens or 2 majors? He shot 62 in or something.
Fleetwood has 2 63s in the final round.
But I think Xander has 2 62s in majors in his career, which is wild. Yeah, I think he did it at a PGA and I think he did it at LACC. I mean, it's just I mean, like that kind of stuff is like that. That's when you sit there and go, why wouldn't he play well here? I mean, again. I just feel like golf is so funny because we get fixated on, obviously we're fixated on Scotty because of the way he's playing and the dominance he's had in golf. We had fixated on Bryson and the way he's playing in major championships. And then of course, Rory, occupies so much of the oxygen in the room. And then you just sit there and forget about this guy that's doing this stuff in majors. Like, look at the run. Yeah, I mean, 20, look at basically after the Masters in 22 for Xander. Look at that run. He's finished outside the top 18 one time, and that was the PGA Championship last month.
And okay, Josh had it. Yeah, round 1 at Valhalla
or Quail depending on which where. It's kind of the same. Val Quail is where he shot the other 62. But yeah, listen. What is his odds? What's Xander's odds? Is he like the 3rd or 4th favorite?
I think he's like he's drifting like mid-20s, 22 right now.
Seems just like an easy play if you were into that space,
Yeah. Okay. Josh said plus money to finish top 10. I think that'd be the play.
Yeah. What are you doing? If you're listening to this, I mean, just go ahead and, just drop a dime on that. For
the guys who talked about Sam Burns and Ryan Fox last week. Why wouldn't you listen to us?
20 to 1. 20 to 1 to win. I mean, like, again, honestly, if you were going to bet Scotty at 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1, or Xander at 20 to 1. I mean, the value obviously is with the guy that's played so well.
Yeah.
Is pretty wild. But yeah, excited about it. I mean, I think the US Open has done an incredible job. The USGA has done a great job of kind of bringing this championship to these level golf courses time and time again. And basically since Aaron Hills, and I love Aaron Hills, but I mean, it's obviously been kind of a classic run of those types of US Open venues. And I think this is my favorite one. I really do think Oakmont's my favorite U.S. Open golf course because of how difficult it is and because of how much history there is there. And I think it's kind of an obscure one. It's like not some crazy designer that designed it. It's not, the most famous people you've ever heard of. It's this kind of one-off dude that put together this golf course. And I love the fact that, the membership kind of embraces how tough it is. People understand how tough it's going to be. The pros know it's going to be brutal. Like all of that, I think is fun. And I think when how they always say the Open Championship fans are the smartest in golf. It almost feels like this week golf fans are a little bit smarter because you kind of look at rounds and you go 69, really, really great round of golf. I mean, you almost appreciate anything that's around par at this place.
And I think the city of Pittsburgh matches the U.S. Open too, which helps. Just some smash mouth AFC football, AFC North football, Ravens Steelers rivalries. They, my dad's side of the family is from Pittsburgh. There's an element of people from Pittsburgh just loving to be miserable in a certain sense. And that is exactly what the U.S. Open, especially at Oakmont, requires.
Yeah, Scotty Bryson on Sunday would be a lot of fun. Patrick, hope you have a great week. Excited to kind of read all the stuff you're going to write. Where could people kind of find all of your penning articles and what you're going to focus on and everything you write about Corey Connors and Cameron Young?
Yeah, Corey Connors and Cam Young think pieces will be on CBSSports.com throughout the week. That's where everything will be too. And so I think
everything you need, nothing you don't.
And the big one this week, probably Wednesday, just on the city of Pittsburgh, talking to some local people, how it matches Oakmont in the U.S. Open and all that fun stuff. So CBSSports.com for me.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Excited to see the coverage. Excited to chat about it with you later in the week.